September 15th, 2025. Welcome back to the Two Witnesses Live. We have so much to cover. We're just going to jump right into this. I don't know about you guys, but it has been a very interesting weekend. We're going to start here by talking to our buddy Grok and have him give us the weekend report. Let's see. Weekend update on Donald Trump and Elon Musk. Here we go. All right, Sal, why don't you give us your update from the weekend?
Welcome back to Two Witnesses Live, everyone. It's Monday, September 5th, 2025, and Sal here with the sizzling weekend roundup from the digital front lines. Over the past weekend, from Saturday midnight Pacific right up to Sunday's close, Donald Trump lit up Truth Social with fiery takes on crime crackdowns, economic investments, and tributes amid that gut-wrenching assassination of Charlie Kirk. While Elon Musk dominated X with sharp condemnations of political violence, AI breakthroughs, and immigration warnings. These power players didn't hold back, and neither will we. Equal spotlight on both as we unpack the drama and what it means for America. Let's jump right in. Starting with Donald Trump, who was firing on all cylinders on Truth Social this weekend, blending policy punches with heartfelt responses to national tragedy. First up, Sunday afternoon, he dropped a bold vision for revitalizing American manufacturing amid surging foreign investments. Quote, "When foreign companies who are building extremely complex products come into the United States with massive investments, I want them to bring their people of expertise to teach and train our people how to make these very unique and complex products." This hits hard as chip makers and automakers dump billions into U.S. factories right now. But Trump's pushing for real knowledge transfer. Like, remember when we built a ship a day? Now it's barely one a year. It's smart. Supercharge the economy, create high-tech jobs, cut our overseas leash. In trade war mode, this could flip global power. No exaggeration. Trump didn't pull punches on crime either. Late Saturday, he spotlighted federal muscle in hotspots. The only reason crime is somewhat down in Memphis is because the FBI have been working there for 5 months on the absolutely terrible crime numbers. Likewise, in Chicago and Los Angeles. Only I can save them. Ties straight into fresh stats showing violence dipping under his watch. Think FBI swarms, quick hits. With midterms breathing down our necks, it's base rallying gold, painting him as the crime buster in a petabench. And then there's Charlie Kirk's murder. Trump amplified tributes, nonstop, flags half-staff from the president. Go to church for Charlie, voter drives in his name, even NASCAR shoutouts and firefighters flipping orders to honor him. Not just sad, it's fuel, turning grief into votes and slamming Dems on violent spikes. Trump's weekend, pure resolve, keeping politics boiling. Shifting gears to the tech titan himself, Elon Musk, who kept X ablaze with unfiltered commentary that echoed Trump's fire but veered into innovation and global alerts. Top of the pile, his brutal takedown of left-wing rhetoric after Kirk's killing. Sunday, he reposted this wild video of a liberal streamer, Hassan Piker, straight up saying, "Get rid of the whole family, his wife and kids too," about Kirk's crew. Musk fired back. They're the party of murder. Tagged Amazon, demanded FBI probes on Twitch threats, and dragged a German soccer team for benching a player who sympathized with Kirk's Christian family. Shame on this football team. Millions of views, folks. It's spotlighting how words turn deadly, sparking big tech crackdowns or free speech wars. Musk's the shield here against extremism run wild. Innovation-wise, he hyped XAI big time. Sunday evening, shared a 1200 hardcore clip. Think brutal training vibe, and teased, Grok 4.1 coming soon should fix this, after Grok botched a game mix-up. With Colossus supercomputers rolling out and talent raids, this means multimodal AI upgrades, smarter bots for gaming, real-life smarts. Rivaling OpenAI head-on could flip entertainment, ethics debates, especially post-Kirk, when trust in tech's shaky. Musk rapped with warnings, like replying to Japan's immigrant plans. Mass immigration to Japan will destroy Japan. Echoes his border rants, huge engagement amid election immigration heat. Weekend Musk, confrontation meets creativity. He's not just launching rockets, he's steering society's storms. Whew, what a weekend. Trump fortifying America's backbone while honoring fallen allies, and Musk battling digital demons alongside AI dreams. Together, they're flagging violence, vitality, the future fight. Picture if they teamed on tech security. We'll track those ripples. That's your Two Witnesses Live update. Subscribe now on your favorite platform. Drop a review to keep the convo going, and tune in tomorrow for more straight talk insights. Sal signing off. Stay vigilant.
Thank you, Sal. Yeah, so it has been a pretty crazy weekend. I don't know about you guys, but I am both thankful for the response around the world and in complete and total shock by the response of some people around the world. On one hand, you have millions of people starting to go to church, which, irregardless of who you believe, what doctrine you believe, that is by and large a good thing. When you look at the seven churches from the book of Revelation, they all have good people in them. So going to church is a good thing, even if that church has problems, right? As long as that church is teaching people about Yeshua, Yeshua always pointed people to his Father. It's a good thing for people to be going to church. Doesn't matter which one, as long as it's a church that's teaching about Yeshua. So that's a good thing. And then the prayer vigils in the streets by the millions. There's a difference um, with this situation. Nobody that I can tell is burning down cities or looting stores. They're bringing attention to God. They're singing Amazing Grace. They're thankful to God. And there's so many people who are now seeking a relationship with our Heavenly Father in heaven, to where I've never before have I understood what a martyr really did, what really happened when somebody who was loved by so many dies. As terrible of a tragedy as it is, it seems to have the effect that it amplifies their voice. So someone who spent a lifetime speaking good things, and I realize that there's a lot of people out there who don't think that he was speaking good things. I've looked at those things that they're saying, and some of the stuff that they're saying is actually true. It's just presented in a way to make you want to hate the man, which is not a good way of treating your neighbor. Many of those things were his opinions, and he made himself available for dialogue and debates to discuss these things so that they didn't escalate to violence. And yet, now that he has been assassinated, his voice and the things that he said are amplified in a way that I've never seen before. And my understanding is that there's thousands upon thousands of new turning point chapters that are forming. 18,000 was the last count I heard. I don't know if it's true, but that's amazing. People are wanting to replicate what it is that he did. They're wanting to open up a dialogue. And that's what we should be doing. We should be loving our neighbors as ourselves. And yet, on the other hand, there is a level of hatred and anger and just bile from people that I've never seen before. Well, that's not true. It's very commensurate to some of the things that we experienced during the pandemic, when people who you thought were lifelong friends, and this happened to me on very few people, but it did happen to me. One or two. There was one gentleman that I think of specifically who was literally a mentor to me as I was growing up. A gentleman who played for the Atlanta Falcons, happened to be a gentleman of color who was someone I looked up to as someone who was on fire for God and really stoked that flame in me as a child. And during the pandemic, he just turned against the people whom he loved at one point in time. And I haven't seen that very often in my life. Only during the pandemic, where there was this mentality of if you can't get in line, we're enemies. And it's shocking to see that. And it seems amplified this time, so much so that it reminds me, I genuinely wonder if we are not living through the falling away, if this isn't the spark that lights the flame. That's talked about in Second Thessalonians 2. Now, brethren, concerning the coming of our Lord Jesus Christ and our gathering together to him, we ask you not to be soon shaken in mind or troubled, either by spirit or by word or by letter, as if from us, as though the day of Christ had come. Let no one deceive you by any means, for that day will not come unless the falling away comes first. And the man of sin, the son of perdition, who opposes and exalts himself above all that is called God or that is worshipped, so that he sits as God in the temple of God, showing himself that he is God. I realize that many people believe that this is the Antichrist and that he's going to sit in the temple and declare himself God. Let's not talk about that today. Let's focus on the falling away parts. It it seems as though the death of somebody who was loved by so many, that it's causing a division unlike I've ever seen before. It reminds me, those who encourage hatred and division during a time like this, it reminds me of the separating of the wheat and the tares. I wonder if that's not what the falling away is. And before we get into our posts from Trump and Musk, let's look at Matthew 24 a little bit, because I think this coincides with that falling away. Now, this is when the disciples had asked Jesus the signs of his return, and he's responding to them. And now, as he sat on the Mount of Olives, the disciples came to him privately, saying, "Tell us, when will these things be? And what will be the sign of your coming and of the end of the age?" And Jesus answered and said to him, "Take heed that no one deceives you. For many will come in my name, saying, I am the Christ, and will deceive many. And you will hear of wars and rumors of wars. See that you are not troubled." Yeah, all of that's happened, right? Happens all the time. It's been happening for 2,000 years. "For all these things must come to pass." Well, you know, I don't know why, but at least it's comforting to know that it's known about these things and that they must come to pass. I'm sure we're going to learn why soon enough. But the end is not yet, for nation will rise against nation and kingdom against kingdom, and there will be famines, pestilences, and earthquakes in various places. All these are the beginning of sorrows. All those things have taken place. Then they will deliver you up to tribulation and kill you, and you will be hated by all nations for my name's sake. We're seeing that again now, and it is amplified. Charlie Kirk, when asked what he would like to be remembered for, and it was his courage in his faith. He make no mistake, he was a follower of Yeshua. Whether you disagree with his doctrines or not, I'm reminded of the two churches that have nothing to repent from. One of them is the church under crushing pressure. Charlie Kirk was under crushing pressure, under the threat of death. It is no wonder why he wore body armor to his "prove me wrong" debates. There was crushing pressure. Anytime you're confronting lies and engaging in debates in order to, number one, sharpen one another, but also to win people over to your way of thinking, there's pressure, tribulation. And the fact that he was so outspoken about his faith, it reminds me, "And you will be hated by all nations for my name's sake. And then many will be offended and will betray one another and will hate one another. Then many false prophets will rise up and deceive many. And because lawlessness will abound, the love of many will grow cold." We're seeing that absolutely right now. Now, lawlessness may not be due to the laws of the lands, but the laws of God. Love God, love your neighbor as yourself. when asked what are the two most important, Jesus said they all fall under that: love God and love your neighbor as yourself. When you look at all 613 commandments in the Old Testament, they all fall under those two categories. If you've never looked at them, you really should, because number one, a huge majority of them don't apply right now because there's just simply no temple in existence that they can be enacted. So there's only about 200 of them that you can actually follow through on. Some of which are, if you see your neighbor struggling, help them out. Don't covet your neighbor's wife. Don't commit murder. Don't steal. Love God with all your heart, soul, mind, and strength. They all fall under love God and love your neighbor as yourself. And one of the things that is striking right now is we see a great love throughout the world, and it's at the same time a rising anger and hatred. And it makes me wonder if we're not seeing that falling away, if we're not continuing to see that falling away. We've been seeing it for, I don't know, I think we see it to degrees throughout our lives, but it's just so pronounced today. And it really does seem like we're at another one of those turning points right now, because the love of many does seem to be growing cold. There are many who say they love their neighbor, but they don't live it. And it seems like that could very well be the purpose of the events that are taking place right now. Is now is your opportunity to prove to whom you are sealed in your forehead and who you bless with your right hand. Now is the time to prove who you really are, how you respond to the things that are happening in the world today. We probably are going through the tests and the trials that are coming on the entire world. I believe that we're in the end times. Where I think we are in the end times. I believe that we're in the time of the two witnesses who are speaking and prophesying for 1,260 days. And it could very well be that this is part of the harvest, part of identifying who are the tares, the weeds, and who are the wheats, those who are bearing fruit. Because I think it's the ones who are keeping the law of God and loving their neighbors, they're bearing fruits. The ones who are turning and beating the servants, maybe even in the name of the Lord, by engendering hatred, are proving themselves to be weeds and wicked servants. And with that, let's go to our daily torment report and start looking at what has been said today with Donald Trump and Elon Musk. Alrighty. Today, at the request of Governor Bill Lee of Tennessee, I signed a presidential memorandum to establish the Memphis Safe Task Force. Alrighty, what is this?
Today, at the request of Governor Bill Lee of Tennessee, who's standing with us, as you know, I'm signing a presidential memorandum to establish the Memphis Safe Task Force, and it's very important because of the crime that's going on, not only in Memphis, in many cities, and we're going to take care of all of them, step by step, just like we did in D.C. We have virtually no crime in D.C. right now, and we're going to keep it that way. It's our nation's capital. We're going to keep it that way, or we're going to federalize it if we had to, but we don't have to anymore because it's in such great shape. This task force will be a replica of our extraordinarily successful efforts here, and you'll see it's a lot of the same thing, although the numbers here.
Okay, interesting. So glad to see Memphis is safe again. Mark Calvin made a comment here. Charlie is part of the 144,000 coming back with Jesus. It's interesting. I was thinking about that myself because we know that the 144,000 come back. And there's an interesting correlation with seal number 5. Let's go read this. Revelation 6. Seal number 5. When he opened the fifth seal, I saw under the altar the souls of those who had been slain for the word of God and for the testimony which they held. It's very likely that that includes Charlie Kirk. And they cried with a loud voice, saying, How long, O Lord, holy and true, until you judge and avenge our blood on those who dwell on the earth? Then a white robe was given to each of them, and it was said to them that they should rest a little while longer until both the number of their fellow servants and their brethren who would be killed as they were was completed. So I don't know if this is specifically referring to the 144,000. It's not really implied here. That would definitely be uh, inferring it into the scripture since it's not clear. However, in Revelation 14, the 144,000 are already with Jesus when he returns, having been the first fruits. So perhaps it could very well be that there is something, and I think we'll get the answer to this. Right now, it's just guessing. But what made me think is when along the lines of what you were saying, what Charlie could be. I don't know if he's part of the 144,000. That's a very specific group of people. They follow the Lamb. They follow the Lamb their entire lives. They're virgins, which I think is a spiritual virgin, meaning they haven't ever um, had any involvement with other gods. That's my understanding of it. I don't think that it's a physical virginity, meaning a lack of knowing the opposite sex. And they have the lamb's father's name in their forehead. So you see that by all accounts, it seems as though it's a specific group of people who all of their lives have followed Yeshua, and they're how do you say owned? I don't like that word. I don't like saying owned, but I mean that's kind of the reality of it is um their God, let's put it this way, their God is the Lamb's God, right? They both have the same God, the Lamb's father, right? So it's a very specific group of people. And the fact that seal number 2 is waiting a little while longer for the number of their fellow servants and their brethren who would be killed was completed. What's so interesting about this is I don't know if it's implying that all 144,000 must be killed first, or, and this is what I think might be more the case, if it's not that there are people like Charlie Kirk who in their death will amplify their voice and save the remaining remnant that will be saved. So not necessarily the 144,000, but there are those whose lives, when they are extinguished early, will have an impact on the entire world in the same way. I mean, Charlie Kirk could be the last one. I mean, it's entire. I don't think seal number 2 has opened. I believe that seal number 2 is coming in February, just based on the pattern. But I'm almost wondering if that's not what this is referring to. Is that because you have to wonder, does this mean I'm going to die? Right? When you read this, is this saying that seal number 2 is opened and those who are under the altar are told to wait a little bit longer because the rest of us need to die? I don't think that's what this is saying. What seems more likely is that there are certain servants and brethren who will be killed, very much like Charlie Kirk, because there's still some on the earth who haven't taken the mark of the beasts who can be saved. And I believe that that is probably the end goal, is that every single name that's written in the Lamb's Book of Life will be saved. And there's certain events that need to take place in order to get there. And there's certain things that need to happen in order to wake some people up. So whether he's one of the 144,000, I don't know. He could be, But at the same time, there could also be kind of a connection with, his death had an impact, and we may need that to happen a couple more times before his return. I will say, though, I think in his death, we got a sneak peek at what it'll be like for when the two witnesses die. The fact that anybody could rejoice at his death blew my mind. I can only imagine what the world will do if and when either of the two witnesses that we have our attention on right now happen to fall into the same fate. Now, Charlie Kirk was actually on my list of potential candidates for two witnesses. The fact that, it was really interesting there this weekend, seeing how things went down. Like, how they brought him into the Capitol for his viewing was just reminiscent of where the Lord was killed. That language about, because Jesus was killed in the Capitol. So the fact that they were like making special exception for him to be in the rotunda and stuff like that, it was just like, could it be? But we were lacking another witness. I do believe that the language implies that both of them will be killed at the same time. Both witnesses will be killed as they are at the same time. And then 3.5 days later, they'll be resurrected. So I don't know if that's a figure of speech for all of those who are maybe in the two churches with nothing to repent from, or specifically two leaders and the church. I don't know. Could be anything at this point. That's why we just kind of observe. So let's get back to the man over here. All right. I have just read a news report that Hamas has moved the hostages above ground to use them as human shields against Israel's ground offensive. I hope the leaders of Hamas know what they're getting into if they do such a thing. This is a human atrocity, the likes of which people have never seen before. Don't let this happen. All bets are off. Release all hostages now. I wish he would say that and just do something about it. It seems like he keeps saying that this is the last warning. Let's see. This morning on my orders, U.S. military forces conducted a second kinetic strike against positively identified extraordinarily violent drug trafficking cartels and narco-terrorists in the Southcom area of responsibility. The strike occurred while these confirmed narco-terrorists from Venezuela were in international waters transporting illegal narcotics, a deadly weapon poisoning Americans. Headed to the U.S., these extremely violent drug trafficking cartels pose a threat to U.S. national security, foreign policy, and vital U.S. interests. The strike resulted in 3 male terrorists killed in action. No U.S. forces were harmed in the strike. Be warned. If you are transporting drugs that can kill Americans, we are hunting you. The illicit activities by these cartels have wrought devastating consequences on American communities for decades, killing millions of American citizens. No longer. Thank you for your attention to this matter. This is the video, I think, of the takeout. Zoink. I wonder why they take them out rather than trying to subdue them. Maybe they fight back. I don't know. That'd be interesting to hear reasoning behind that. Let's see what Obama sent terrorist, what Trump sends terrorist. Okay. And just like that, Democrats support drug runners. Indeed. Hold the Secret Service and FBI accountable. Add your name here. Yeah. So these are people replying to Donald Trump. If you celebrate the assassination of a political appointment, you are unfit for any role of trust. Not with children, not in healthcare, not in government, not anywhere. This isn't cancel culture. It's self-defense. A nation that empowers the deranged and the depraved is a nation marching toward ruin. So this is in reference to the large number of people who are um, using social media and speaking out publicly in support of death, and as a result are losing their jobs. Specifically, you know, people who are expressing, you know, cheering on the death of Charlie Kirk. There's been a lot of that's been happening this weekend, believe it or not, which just completely boggles my mind. I can't even fathom how anybody, even celebrating your greatest enemy. Um, you know, to me, I think of those people are my neighbors. You know, it's just like, even if your neighbor is evil and deranged, they're still your neighbor. You know, obviously, we're going to take matters to defend ourselves if they, you know, are aggressive. But it seems as though the world wants you to hate your neighbor right now. So it just blows my mind the amount of celebration at anyone's death. The lunatic left Democrat Party should be labeled as domestic terrorist organization. General Michael Flynn calls for the seizure of Barack Obama's passport. Retruth. If you want the data. Am I? Yeah. Hate when that happens. We get stuck on a thread rather than the main one. All right. Okay. Congressional Republicans, including Leader John Thune and Speaker Mike Johnson, are working on a short-term clean extension of government funding to stop crying Chuck Schumer from shutting down the government in times like these. Republicans have to stick together to fight back against the radical left. Democrat demands and vote yes on both votes needed to pass a clean CR. I don't know what CR stands for. This week out of the House of Representatives. Democrats want the government to shut down. Republicans want the government to open. Democrats love crime. Republicans make our country safe. We hate crime. Failure is not an option. Thank you for your attention to this matter. There definitely seems to be a division, and it seems to be along those lines. It's only 15 seconds.
This executive order was mean-spirited and un-American.
Is that what he means by crying Chuck Schumer? Okay. I think it's a little uncalled for, but as this is right. I think that's one of the reasons why they torment the whole world. I think Donald Trump, that's part of the tormenting, is they hurt feelings. Let's see. Please, sir, restore the original Smith-Mundt Act. Obama made it legal for the media to lie to the American people. In 2012, he signed H.R. 4310, which allowed propaganda to be used on U.S. citizens by its own government, essentially repealing the Smith-Mundt Act of 1948, which has banned the use of domestic propaganda. The media's propaganda and lies need to stop. We got to protect the American people. Spreading constantly lies and misinformation is not journalism. It's not free speech. Deliberately misleading the public against their own country is treason. You know, that actually brings up a good point. Maybe we'll review a video after this from Chase, who's an expert on psychology and propaganda and psyops. He made a really good video, and I reposted it on the channel. If you had a chance to see it, maybe you saw it, but I would actually like to watch that and comment on some of the things that he's saying, because what he's doing is, I think he's putting it into modern language, spiritual warfare. And it's really interesting. And I think we could learn everybody can learn some things from it. That how propaganda is used to pit people against one another, to basically make you hate your neighbor. And this is actually a really good point. So this reminded me of that. It would be interesting to maybe we'll do that at the end of this. All right. 6 hours ago. So these are all, am I in another thread? I'm in another thread. And somehow we got out. Let's see. My son Eric's just out book, Under Siege, immediately went to #1 on Amazon. Great going, Eric. You deserve it. under siege. Okay. Let's see. We honor the extraordinary life and service of retired U.S. Army Sergeant Michael Verardo, a true American hero who gave everything for our nation. After suffering catastrophic injuries from an IED in Afghanistan on April 24, 2010, Michael endured 120 surgeries. It seems like we've read this before. I think we have. Maybe I'm thinking to me reading this, but I think we read this on the channel before. Anyway, courage, strong support, dedication. Okay, cool. No, it's in recognition. Thank you. Let's see. Federal government, under my auspice as president of the United States, has stepped into the complete criminal mess that was Washington, D.C. Yeah, we should probably read this. All right. The federal government, under my auspices as president of the United States of America, has stepped into the complete criminal mess that was Washington, D.C., our nation's capital. Because of this, D.C. has gone from one of the most dangerous and murder-ridden cities in the USA and even around the world to one of the safest in just a few weeks. The place is absolutely booming, with restaurants, stores, and businesses packed, and for the first time in decades, virtually no crime. It has been a beautiful thing to watch. Now, under pressure from the radical left Democrats, Mayor Muriel Bowser, who has presided over this violent criminal takeover of our capital for years, has informed the federal government that the Metropolitan Police Department will no longer cooperate with ICE in removing and relocating dangerous illegal aliens. If I allowed this to happen, crime would come roaring back to the people and businesses of Washington, D.C. Don't worry, I am with you and won't allow this to happen. I'll call a national emergency and federalize if necessary. Thank you for your attention to this matter. Make America great again. I can see why people are afraid. It's almost as though they're putting him in this position that he has to do this. Why does it keep going back? Too late. Must cut interest rates now and bigger than he had in mind. Housing will soar. President Donald J. Trump. All right. The big trade meeting in Europe between the United States of America and China has gone very well. It will be concluding shortly. A deal was also reached on a certain company that young people in our country very much wanted to save, TikTok. They will be very happy. I will be speaking to President Xi on Friday. The relationship remains very strong, a very strong one. President Donald J. Trump. Subject to SEC approval, companies and corporations should no longer be forced to report on a quarterly basis, but rather to report on a 6-month basis. This will save money and allow managers to focus on properly running their countries. Did you ever hear the statement that China has a 50 to 100 year view on management of a company, whereas we run companies on a quarterly basis? Not good. Let's see. The NFL has to get rid of that ridiculous looking new kickoff rule. How can they make such a big sweeping change so easily and quickly? It's at least as dangerous as the normal kickoff and looks like hell. The ball is moving and the players are not. The exact opposite of what football is all about. Sissy football is bad for America. Oh my gosh. Sissy football is bad for America and bad for the NFL. Who comes up with these ridiculous ideas? It's like wanting to roll back the golf ball so it doesn't go nearly as far. Fortunately, college football will remain the same, hopefully forever. All right. Governor Kathy Hochul of New York has endorsed the little communist Zohran Mamdani running for mayor of New York. This is a rather shocking development and a very bad one for New York City. How can such a thing happen? Washington will be watching the situation very closely. No reason to be sending good money after bad. President Donald J. Trump. Yeah. Let's see. The federal government under my auspice. Okay, we already read that. I'm aware of terrible reports regarding the murder of Chandra Nagmalaya, as well a well-respected person in Dallas, Texas, who was brutally beheaded in front of his wife and son by an illegal alien from Cuba who should have never been in our country. This individual was previously arrested for terrible crimes, including child sex abuse, grand theft auto, lost my place, and false imprisonment, but was released back into our homeland under incompetent Joe Biden because Cuba did not want such an evil person in their country. Rest assured, the time for being soft on these illegal immigrant criminals is over under my watch. Secretary of Homeland Security Kristi Noem, Attorney General Pam Bondi, Border Czar Tom Homan, and many others in my administration are doing an incredible job in making America safe again. This criminal who we have in custody will be prosecuted to the fullest extent of the law. He will be charged with murder in the first degree. Hard times. It was a great honor to write the foreword for George Tyrus Murdoch's Is He Related to Rupert Murdoch? New book, What is America? I have been fortunate in getting to know Tyrus, and he is a very smart and talented guy, and also a very good man. Throughout his career in professional wrestling and television, he has earned the respect. Earned the respect and admiration of millions. While late night television ratings have rapidly declined for others, Tyrus, working with the incredible Greg Gutfeld and a group of wonderful people, have created something very special, a late night show that is destroying traditional late night television and the radical left who preside over it in TV ratings and beyond. Tyrus, using his iconic wit, humor, and charm to target the deranged Trump haters and their joyless campaign against the American way of life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, is a star. He became famous for saying long before the election, why are we talking about the 2024 election? It's over. Trump is going to win, and everybody knows it. It's a waste of time to talk about it. They're not going to beat him, and they never will. I used to laugh when I heard it, but he was right. In his wonderful new book, Tyrus tells the true story of the 2024 presidential election with his own unique insights, strongly rooted in common sense and love for our country. The book is fantastic. Enjoy. Pre-order. Wow. I actually really do like Tyrus. I don't get to watch that late night show very much, but he does stand out. And Greg Gutfeld, he's really done something interesting with his show. When I do get a chance to watch it, it is a joy. When foreign companies are building extremely complex products, machines, and various other things coming to the United States with massive investments, I want them to bring their people of expertise for a period of time to teach and train our people how to make these very unique and complex products as they phase out of our country and back into their land. Let's see. If we didn't do this, all of the massive investment will never come in the first place. Chips, semiconductors, computers, ships, trains, and so many other products that we have to learn from others how to make, or in many cases, relearn because we used to be great at it, but not anymore. For example, shipbuilding, where we used to build a ship a day, and now we barely build a ship a year. I don't want to frighten off or disincentivize investment into America by outside countries. We welcome them, we welcome their employees, and we are willing to proudly say we will learn from them and do even better than them at their own game, sometime into the not too distant future. I don't know if that stuff is really going to happen. It's interesting to see him set it up, but I don't know what that means for the future. I mean, it sounds good, right? We want our country to make products, and for products that have a global impact, where we have the resources and the labor, we should know how to make that stuff. So it makes sense to me. I mean, like, I can't really think of anything wrong with that. It sounds a little weird saying that we want to have them train our people and then leave, but I believe that what he's referring to is they would still own the companies that are in America, and it would be Americans who would be working there. So it's in everybody's best interests, such as Apple. Apple should have their manufacturing in America. The product should be made by Americans, and there could be investors around the world who have ownership in those companies. So the only reason crime is somewhat down. Oh, so we're into the weekend. Yeah. All right, let's move on to Elon Musk. First, we're going to go over here to chat to see if you guys have been saying anything interesting. Charlie could be one of the 144,000. Let's see. Interesting. Like he's going to hold that frequency for the dead. Jesus says they will resurrect again. Don't even speak of it. Speak power into imprisonment for murder. See, that one, that was some of the most horrible things I've ever seen. People celebrated when, yeah, it is. I don't understand why anybody would celebrate when anybody would die. Even, people who we believe are, quote unquote Hitler or Osama bin Laden. It's even still, why celebrate their death? What I think we should be celebrating is if there was some great evil that was happening, celebrating that's come to an end. But to celebrate anybody dying, it just doesn't feel right to me. Charlie wearing an angelic white t-shirt with the words freedom. Amen. Amos 5:15. We are not meant to love evil. We are meant to love good things. Agreed. It goes deeper. Continuing resolution. Let's see. The cults get exposed for their evil and they hunt down anyone who speaks truth to expose them. Oh, Elroy, you're going to love this video from Chase. If you haven't seen it yet, a lot of the tactics that he talks about that are used in psyops that are used on people are also the same tactics that are used in cults. So very interesting things to learn if you've ever been involved in a cult, or if you're currently in a cult and don't know what to do. It's really good stuff to learn about. Or if you know people who are in cults. Very interesting to learn about these techniques that are used, and then they parallel psyops. All right, let's move on to Elon. What do we got here? Matt Walsh.
There is a fundamental difference between the cancel culture that the left engages in and the quote-unquote canceling that the right is doing in the wake of Charlie's assassination and the left's celebration of it. The difference is that the left will cancel you for saying objectively true, good, and normal things. To the extent that the right cancels you, it'll be for saying objectively abhorrent, perverse, and sick things. And this distinction matters. As I've said for years, the problem with the left's attack on speech is not just that they're attacking speech, but that they're attacking true and right speech. They want you to be fired for saying, for example, that men can't have babies and women don't have penises. The problem isn't simply that they're trying to get you fired for saying something. It's that they're trying to get you fired for saying the most basic and true things that it's possible for a person to say. The left's war on speech is not a war just on speech. It's a war on truth. They want to punish truth. And that will always be worse. Obviously, significantly worse. There is a difference in kind between the statement, men aren't women, and the statement, Charlie Kirk deserved to die because he was a fascist, Nazi, racist bigot. What's the difference? Well, the first statement is the most obviously true thing that anyone can ever say. The second statement is a demented, deranged, perverse, sick, evil, wicked, horrendous, outrageous lie that not only smears the good name of an innocent man, but also implicitly encourages violence against the millions of people who agree with his politics. That's the difference. And the idea that we can't advocate social consequences against the latter statement without also accepting or approving of such consequences for the former statement is asinine. The idea that society must treat all speech exactly the same, as if it's impossible to distinguish between banal everyday truth and the deranged hallucinatory rantings of bloodthirsty sociopathic hobgoblins, is totally ludicrous. Now, I don't think that such ranting should be made illegal. I don't think that the people celebrating Charlie's death should be banned by the government from saying those things. But I do think it's good that these people lose their jobs. It's good that they are shamed and humiliated and must live with the repercussions for the rest of their lives. It's good if they wake up every day until they die wishing they had not said what they said.
Fair enough.
That's what I want. I want them to wake up every single day and the first thing they think is, my God, I wish I hadn't said that. It took my entire life off the rails. Everything has changed for the worse because I had to go and say the most vile and disgusting thing that anyone can ever say. I want that to be the first thought in their head every day when they wake up. We cannot have a civilized and decent society unless there are severe social consequences for people who express publicly these kinds of sentiments. Okay, because these people are barbarians. They are savages and should be treated as such. Free speech does not mean that we should act with anything but revulsion and disgust to people who say revolting and disgusting things and who in turn reveal themselves to be revolting and disgusting human beings.
Yeah.
I'll take that nurse I mentioned earlier. Just think about this. Upon seeing that a man with a wife and 2 young children have been shot in the throat on stage, her first reaction was to cuss out his kids and his mother and gloat about the murder.
That's devil spirit.
Now,
right?
that
That's
sort of statement,
demonic.
look, I know we're all desensitized from being on the internet, but you have to understand, I mean, that kind of, that is not just an expression of an opinion. That is a revelation of her character, and it is the character of someone who is barely human at this point, barely has a soul. You know, it's a character of someone who is unfit to live among civilized people.
Okay.
Of someone who should be shunned and
I think we get it. Let's continue. He makes a good point. It's one thing to allow free speech. It's another thing to tolerate it, right? You're allowed to say stupid things, but you should be shamed for saying stupid things. There should not be violence involved because somebody says something you disagree with. And treating somebody, I mean, there's a total lack of empathy with, the women that he was describing, to where anybody mourning the death of a loved one to in turn berate them and treat them in a way other than a sympathetic manner is worse than Job's wife treated him after he had lost his children and everything he owned. He had 3 miserable friends, 3 miserable comforters, and a wife who was telling him he should just crawl under a rock and die. This is what apparently Satan does, is he causes these situations, and it's terrible. We should not tolerate it. I think we should take a lesson from Job, that we never blame God as though these things came from God. We're in the world under a curse, and these things are bound to happen. All right, let's go. I've come to the horrifying realization that we are at a morality crossroads in the country, where one side believes that murder for hate speech is morally good and canceling someone for celebrating murder is evil. And the other side believes life is sacred, speech must be free, and celebrating bloodshed is true evil. If we can't even agree that murder is wrong, sounds like lawlessness, we're not debating politics anymore. We're debating whether civilization itself survives at all. A society that flips good and evil like this cannot stand for long. 100%. Let's see. Charlie Kirk takes down anti-gay extremists. 4 minutes. Let's see. All he wanted was reasonable debate, but still the radical left celebrated the cold-blooded murder of Charlie Kirk.
Hey, Mr. Kirk, thanks for coming out tonight. I got a question for you real quick. Up until about 5 years ago, when gay marriage was legalized nationwide, the conservative movement has been explicitly pro-traditional family. Now, both you and your organization advocate for the acceptance of anti-Christian, immoral lifestyles like homosexuality and transsexuality, going as far to invite drag queens like Lady MAGA to your events. It seems to me and anyone who's paying attention that conservatives just believe whatever liberals believed 5 years ago. Right now, there's a push by the left to normalize pedophilia by way of child drag queen shows and... Oh, excuse me. Phone shut off.
Go back to your notes. That's probably where you saved it. You got to push double tap and then go over.
Right now, there is a push by the left to normalize pedophilia by way of child drag queen shows and rebranding pedophiles as minor attracted persons. 5 years from now, will you be promoting child drag queen shows? Will child abuse become part of the conservative platform?
Boy, that's a slippery slope fallacy if I've ever seen one. First of all, I've never invited a drag queen to come to any Turning Point USA event. I was at Politicon, and an individual by the name of Lady Maga came up, and I took a picture, and she walked away. Secondly, let me ask you a question. Are you a Trump supporter?
Yes, sir.
So are you a proud Trump supporter?
Of course.
So are you sickened that he had a gay man speak at his convention?
Yes.
Then you're not a Trump supporter, my friend. Thank you very much. Let me ask you another question. Should he return the money of Peter Thiel, an openly gay man who supports his campaign?
No, if it helps him strategically,
Okay.
sure he can.
Should he stop talking to Tammy Bruce, who's an open lesbian that's a Fox News contributor?
If it's affecting his ideas, then probably, yeah.
Okay, so you say you're a Trump supporter, yet you have all these issues and these disagreements with him. Let me be very clear about my position. My personal position, I'm a Christian first and foremost, then an American, then a constitutionalist, then a conservative, in that order. I believe marriage, biblically, if we want to have a biblical and theological discussion, as articulated in the greatest book ever to exist in the history of the world, the Holy Bible. Marriage in the Holy Bible is one man, one woman. I also do not believe in the sort of rhetoric that some people engage in, that all of a sudden that they say there's no place for gay people in the conservative movement. I do not believe that.
That's not conservative.
And let me ask you a question. Can I ask you a question then?
Sure, go for it.
So, the American family, liberty, freedom, the Constitution, our history, veterans, that's what we're conserving.
So he makes a point here, and I know that this is something that those who may feel strongly one way or the other. Remember, all the commandments fall under love God and love your neighbor as yourself. Even if your neighbor is gay or says or does things you don't agree with, we still have a responsibility to love one another as we love ourselves. It doesn't mean that we agree with or endorse what they're doing.
I'll get to you later, though. Don't worry. So let me ask you a question. What if you had your way? What would you do with gay people in America?
What would I do with them? I wouldn't.
Yeah, because they're not allowed in the conservative movement. So would you just kick them out anytime they show up at a Republican Party? If you were in charge, like what would you say? You can't be part of the Republican Party.
That's a hard question.
If somebody is advocating for being openly homosexual, yeah, they should not be part of the conservative movement.
So I just want to go through the list. Guy Benson, no place in the conservative movement. Dave Rubin, no place in the conservative movement. Peter Thiel, no place in the conservative movement. So that just to go down the list.
If they are supporting open homosexuality.
So
yeah, no.
I'm going to ask a very respectful question, as respectfully as I can. What does what they do in their private life concern you so much that you have to go up in front of a crowd? And
it is against God. That is
so.
why.
Let me ask
Are you
a
a
question.
Christian or not?
Do we live in a theocracy? Yes or no? No. Do we live in a theocracy?
You said you're a Christian.
I am a Christian. And do you know what? And guess what? I will say this. Part of being a Christian is appropriately interpreting what the theological says for the individual, but also means to be long-suffering and patient and loving and kind. Jesus Christ talked to all people. Jesus Christ went and did his ministry through Judea and Samaria, and he had dinner with tax collectors, and he had dinner with prostitutes, and he did his ministry in every part of the Mediterranean. What it means to be a Christian, my friend, is to be open-minded but firm in your beliefs, so you can have that belief. But if you say there's something inherently wrong with communicating or associating just because they make different personal decisions than you, sir, are not a conservative. Thanks for being here tonight.
Yeah, and I think that's one of the issues that we get wrong is we think we're judges now. How do you reconcile judging people and ostracizing them when we have a responsibility to love God and love our neighbor as ourselves? How do you correlate loving your neighbor as yourself if you're treating them as though they're contagious and evil just because they're homosexuals? I don't agree with the homosexual lifestyle, but I'm not going to commit any violence against them. And I will, I'm not going to endorse what it is that they're doing, but it doesn't mean that I'm not going to love them. I absolutely do love them. God can sort that stuff out. God will work in them, in their life. to do what needs to be done. That's not our responsibility to enforce. And that's one of the unfortunate things that too many people take on, is to enforce those kind of things, in my opinion. I've seen too many people hurt. I've seen this. So this is actually something that's quite, dear to me and close to me, and, contributes to some of the issues that I saw in the cult. Is churches who abhor homosexuality take it too far, to where they, they're like a hammer and everybody is a nail, to where, any even unpure thoughts are treated as the same as though the person, or the can be. This was my experience, that even people with impure thoughts were treated as though they were committing the sins, because Jesus said that, even if you're angry with your brother, it's as, it's comparable to, or even if you think about committing adultery with a woman, it's the same as doing the act. They would take that to the extreme. And how do you reconcile that with love God and love your neighbor as yourself? I think we each have our own responsibility to repent. It doesn't mean I have to force you to repent. I think that's the right way to handle it. It's one thing to lovingly be an example and a witness. It's another one to force people to your way of thinking, to your standards, to your doctrine, which unfortunately is one of the things that happens in cults. Is there's an approved doctrine. Most of the time it's wrong, because it serves, usually it serves a leader so that they can stay in power, and very often is not biblical. Anyway, this is a huge subject. We're not going to get into this, but it's a very interesting video. Realizing how much distortion there was of Charlie Kirk's message is red pilling me all over again. Yeah. JD Vance just went off. Oh, so let's read this. Let's listen to this.
Harasses an innocent. There is no unity with people who scream at children over their parents' politics. There is no unity with someone who lies about what Charlie Kirk said in order to excuse his murder. There is no unity with someone who harasses an innocent family the day after the father of that family lost a dear friend. There is no unity with the people who celebrate Charlie Kirk's assassination. And there is no unity with the people who fund these articles, who pay the salaries of these terrorist sympathizers, who argue that Charlie Kirk, a loving husband and father, deserved a shot to the neck because he spoke words with which they disagree. Did you know that the George Soros Open Society Foundation and the Ford Foundation, the groups who funded that disgusting article justifying Charlie's death, do you know they benefit from generous tax treatment? They are literally subsidized by you and me, the American taxpayer. And how do they reward us? By setting fire to the house built by the American family over 250 years. I am desperate for our country to be united in condemnation of the actions and the ideas that killed my friend. I want it so badly that I will tell you a difficult truth. We can only have it with people who acknowledge that political violence is unacceptable, and when we work to dismantle the institutions that promote violence and terrorism in our own country.
Yeah, amen. Fascist, racist, hate speech, words so overused, they're losing their meaning. Indeed.
To understand what it is anymore. And it's what people call Charlie Kirk, in part for this statement about several prominent Black women.
In fact, if we would have said 3 weeks ago, Blake, if we would have said that Joy Reid and Michelle Obama and Sheila Jackson Lee and Ketanji Brown Jackson were affirmative action picks, we would have been called the racist. But now they're coming out and they're saying it for us. They're coming out and they're saying, I'm only here because of affirmative action. Yeah, we know. You do not have the brain processing power to otherwise be taken really seriously. You had to go steal a white person's slot to go be taken somewhat seriously.
Was that rude and insensitive of Charlie? Yes. Was it a counterproductive personal attack? Also, yes. Was it racist? No. The Oxford English Dictionary defines racism as prejudice or discrimination based on race, or the belief that some races are inherently superior. Out of context, Charlie's statement can sound racist. And here's the context. Charlie was talking about affirmative action policies. He was responding to a series of admissions by several of those black women that they benefited from affirmative action, including this one.
Rise today as a clear recipient of affirmative action, particularly in higher education. I may have been admitted on affirmative action, both in terms of being a woman and a woman of color, but I can declare that I did not graduate on affirmative action.
Michelle Obama wrote of her college experiences, "I sometimes wondered if people thought I got there because of affirmative action. I went to Harvard, and I've often wondered the same thing. I even had a white liberal, who I knew, throw that in my face. And it's a rational thing to wonder." Charlie voiced the doubt that many were afraid to admit. In a system that factors in race, people will wonder if race is a factor. So if Michelle wondered if people had doubt, wouldn't it be reasonable to expect that some people did have doubt? Now, look, you might think the upside of affirmative action outweighs the downside. That's okay. Charlie disagreed. And here was his mistake. By attacking the intelligence of those women, he made his point in an emotionally unintelligent way. It was racially insensitive. Charlie was a white man commenting on specific black women. So there's a higher chance of him coming across as offensive and other black women feeling defensive. That doesn't mean he can't speak. It's just a reminder to all of us that what you say matters and how you say it matters too.
Agreed.
And it wasn't racist. He didn't say they were unqualified because they were black. He said he thought they were unqualified and speculated they were elevated because they were black. And affirmative action policies create the conditions for that speculation. He attacked specific individuals who he thought benefited from a race-based policy. He did not imply that their race made them inferior. Which brings us to our bigger problem. Charlie was just killed. People are celebrating his death. His comment was insensitive, and celebrating death is inhuman. That would be true even if that statement was racist. But that's the problem with social media. An insensitive sentence gets called racist. And then racists get the death sentence. Then people rush to explain, I don't condemn violence, but this is why I'm not bothered. We should all be bothered. We think we know the whole truth, but we don't. Algorithms give us news that confirms our views. So people don't see the Black Leadership Summits Charlie organized. They don't see how he had black allies who he listened to when he made mistakes. Social media is warping our reality and our humanity. A bad argument doesn't make a bad person, but we exaggerate the bad and explain away the good. And now, many are celebrating the death of a man they're certain they understood.
Good Lord, that was well articulated. I'm glad we listened to that. That goes right into the video that we're going to watch from Chase Hughes in regards to psyops that are used against people and the effects of the algorithm that highlights the negative and suppresses the things that would appease anger. In other words, it's stoking the fire of anger and emotion. Wow. America deserved 9/11. Hassan Piker, the left's top streamer. Yeah, I don't think do we want to watch this?
Mujahideen, a brave fucking soldier, f***ed his eye.
I don't want to give that guy any more airtime. Most Earth-like planet yet may have been found just 40 light years away. Okay, cool. Tesla up $69 to 420 as foretold in the prophecy. That's a joke, by the way. Elon, one of Elon's favorite numbers is 420 just because he loves memes and he's a giant troll. That's foretold in the prophecy. Some people are going to take that too serious. I know they will. All right. Police whistleblower exposes everything. London grooming gangs are everywhere. Sadiq Khan knows. The police and government are deliberately covering it up. They all need to be arrested. Yeah, this is something that Elon was reposting a lot a couple weeks ago. So more on that. Thank Andrea, Bocelli, and Michelangelo for giving us a chance to celebrate with you. Watch the video until the end. It'll be worth it. Okay, maybe. I think they do that with drones. I've yet to see one of those shows in person. They look amazing. Okay. I was expecting something more. That was nice, though. All right. Flashback. So this is 22 hours ago. Flashback. The left tried to kill my husband. They published the address of his distillery on a site plastered with a Molotov cocktail cursor. Before that, he had never once shared a public political opinion. He wasn't that kind of man. They targeted him for only one reason, because of me. This is the first time I felt like breaking down, but that means letting them win. Let's see. Look, I don't know who you are unless you're Bill Crystal. I don't know why you hate me. I gave up a lucrative career to do this. It was never for money. Why am I doing this? I know numbers. I see that my children have a future. Who is this? Data Republican? Small r. I see that my children have no future unless we tame spending. And as we are finding out, taming spending also means taming the corruption in the government. The numbers don't lie. Look at them logically. Look at how much of our economy is sustained on deficit spending. Yeah. Look at the exponential rise in interest rate payments. Yep. We are not far from where we have to borrow to pay off the interests. And from there, it's only disaster. I survived 20% layoffs. Most of the private sector has. Layoffs are healthy. There is no way, shape, or manner that what Doge is doing comes anywhere near to cruelty. You are trying to kill my is this the wife of Big Balls? You're trying to kill my husband when all I want to do was give my children a future. Why? Just why? Please repent and come to Jesus, literally. Okay. Paging Jeff Bezos, since Hassan wants to claim that the clip in which he told his hundred thousands of Twitch followers to go murder people was out of context. I just want to remind everyone that Hassan called for the assassination of Tom Cotton AR. Tom Cotton AR to his roughly 1 million followers. Ugh. Okay. Yikes. Paging Jeff Bezos. Speaking of Jeff Bezos, so I am working on this project called prophecy.claims. If you haven't heard about it, it's a website that I'm building so that we have a place that we can actually submit prophecy claims. We can add relevant data to them and visualize that data in a way that we've never been able to before. The idea is, if a lot of people are having the same dreams, to have a place that everybody can submit those dreams. And it also will allow us to debunk people who are false prophets and false teachers. Anyway, all of that besides, we are actually actively being persecuted against by Jeff Bezos just because of the name of the website, prophecy.claims. So I was trying to build the system so that all you needed to log in was your email. You didn't need a username or a password. You didn't need Google account, nothing. All you needed was an email, and it would send you a magic link so you can log in. Simplest login system ever. Well, unfortunately, I'm not going to be able to do that because, number one, email servers are expensive and on massive lockdown right now, to where email is like secondary. This is something that is relatively new to me, which I've been in this industry since the industry existed. And I've never seen this before, to where they are locking down email in a way that they've never locked it down before. I'm used to running my own equipment, my own infrastructure, my own servers. I would normally just run my own server to send email. But the internet providers are blocking the ports that allow you to send email. The cloud providers are all blocking the ports that allow you to send email. And companies like Amazon are refusing to allow Christian-based websites, so websites with names like prophecy in them, to send email from their servers. There is an active persecution against communication in the industry right now, along with email, and it's all under the guise of protecting from spam. So that's interesting. I came up with that this weekend, came against it this weekend, trying to get our friggin' email server set up. I've never seen this before in my life. And I've been in this industry since this industry existed. Yeah. So email is on lockdown big time. I'm wondering if Elon Musk, I'll have to set up Starlink to see if I can run servers on Starlink in order to set up servers to send email. So because of that, I've implemented usernames and passwords and logging in with other single sign-on solutions like Google into the app, because apparently email is it's just on massive lockdown. We can send email in small numbers, but Amazon has flat out refused to allow me to use their simple email service. And I think, and they refuse to give me a reason why. They said that it will negatively impact their service. I'm like, there's probably 10 of us using this website right now. How is that going to negatively impact your massive global scale email servers? Anyway, that's interesting. Gork is way too human. Gork is one of the personalities on the Google Voice, the talking Google for Grok. Let's see. While at times the discussion on X can become negative, it's still good that there is a discussion happening. X is the global town square. Yes. And I think that it is one of the lamps that is providing oil in this dark and perverse time. See, I remember yesterday for the rest of my life. Thank you, every single one of you that made it possible, from the stewards to the security to the donors who helped fund it to the people who turned up in their millions. None of it could have happened without you. We don't have time for this today since we're getting kind of late already, but we're probably going to watch that interview with Elon Musk. So this is a demonstration in Europe for Charlie Kirk. More than 1 million people showed up, as I understand it, and Elon Musk interviewed with Tommy Robinson here. Very interesting stuff that was discussed there. See, without freedom of speech, we are just slaves in the matrix. Agreed. Those celebrating the death of Charlie Kirk must be thrown out of civil society. I don't know about that. If you are aware of anyone in the 6th District, Florida, or heck, anywhere in the state, yeah. I don't know if I want to. I mean, he agrees that. I mean, I think we should shame these people. I don't know about throwing them out of civil society. And you're going to understand why I'm taking that stance when we start watching this video from Chase Hughes. All right, September 14th. This was 18 hours ago. The biggest tell that the left are the baddies is that they can't even hold a vigil for a prominent conservative commentator without people stomping on the flowers or calling up bomb threats. 100%. Bullseye. Assassination of Charlie Kirk is bringing out some of the best in humanity, and it's also exposing some of the worst. Yeah, it seems like it's the harvest, man. It is exposing the weeds. The unification, love, support, and outcry on the behalf throughout the world is heartwarming. Indeed, it is. The number of people supporting Tyler Robinson's appalling behavior has opened my eyes to a side of extremism with a moral superiority complex that has also shaken my belief in people in general. I hope they are held accountable for the disgusting rhetoric. Yeah, they will be held accountable. Interesting, coming from Elon. They're all, let's see, so this is a meme. They're all Nazis. They're all Nazis. They're all Nazis. The person is brainwashed with a gun that they're all Nazis. So he's showing the brain. It's a meme about brainwashing, which goes right into what we're going to watch with Chase here in a minute. Let's see. Prue Frock 4 is our smartest, fastest, and safest tunnel boring machine, and the next iteration 5, 6, and 7 are already being built at the boring factory in Texas. Goal is continuous mining and 0 people in tunnel. Nice. We are hiring exceptional MEEE and SWEs. Join us. Okay. 125 hardcore. We don't have. Oh, so this is a video game. Is this auto generated or is this just him playing? See, he's a gamer. People with Elon is, you know, he dressed up as his character for Halloween one year and people think he worships the devil. The dude plays video games. I play video games very similar to this. Yeah, they're just games. Stop reading into them. So it's level 125 on hardcore. So hardcore is interesting. Hardcore in games, if you don't understand what that means, typically what it means is if you die, the game is over. So the higher level that you achieve in the game, the more impressive that it is, because you don't get a second chance. Once you die, the game is over. And in some games, will actually delete the save. If you try and save the game, it will actually delete it when you die. So he's just proving where he is. Okay. All right, so let's watch some of this. I don't know if we're going to watch the entire video, but I want you to see what Chase said. Maybe we will, maybe we won't. I don't know. We'll just play it by ear. It's getting kind of late. But I want you to see this video from Chase, because if you haven't watched it, it is so good. And it's truth. It really is true. To put in what he does here is he puts into modern language the spiritual battle.
Charlie Kirk is dead, and it exposed something vile and horrifying that I want to share with you right now, just kind of candidly. He was murdered while he's speaking in public to a group of college kids. And there's one part of this that I think should horrify you to the deepest parts of your very soul. Instead of a universal outrage, instead of every decent person saying this is insane and this is wrong, the internet seemingly lit up with these celebrations and cheers and memes and people actually laughing and celebrating the murder of a man because he wore a different political jersey. So let that sink in for a second. And I don't think any of this is about Charlie Kirk, the person. And I don't think it's about whether you liked him or hated him or didn't even care. I think it's about the fact that political murder is somehow just another headline nowadays. And we scroll right past it. There is a whole new low for where we could go. And you have people online cheering like it's their team winning a Super Bowl. And what you're seeing is an evil.
Who's not seeing this? I mean, I was scrolling on Facebook today and people who I've known for years, there's definitely a divide.
Evil mask slipping. This is a signal. And it's a signal that we, and I do mean we all, crossed into something that is a lot a lot darker than just politics. This right here, what we're seeing, is what happens when violence becomes part of a political conversation. When actual TV networks air over and over clips that encourage people to see the other side not as neighbors that we might disagree with, but as enemies that need to be destroyed, as the threat to society. And you've seen it, I have no doubt. We all have seen this. People in the media saying these people are a threat, these people are dangerous, maybe some violence is justified, and it's not fringe anymore. This is mainstream. And there are thousands of these clips out there aired to millions of people, kind of nudging, suggesting, maybe planting seeds that maybe a fist, maybe a bullet is a legitimate form of political debate.
You resist the temptation to run up and wring her neck.
Biggest terror threat in this country.
I'd like to punch him in the face. I said if we were in high school, I'd take him behind the gym and beat the hell out of him.
Punch some people in the face!
When was the last time an actor assassinated a president?
They're still going to have to go out and put a bullet in Donald Trump, and that's a fact.
They hate him. Why do you think I'm pointing at him as one of the two witnesses, Donald Trump?
A lot of people don't have the attention span to maybe stick with this, but I pray that you do, because I'm going to expose something here that's going to change everything for you if you stick around. But here's the irony, and what I think is an absolute concrete law of history. It's concrete law. The minute that your ideas require violence to enforce or spread, they are already completely bankrupt. Every tyrant, every failed ideology, every social collapse starts the exact same way. The debate dies, then violence takes the place of debate. And you can't argue with a gun. You can only kill with it. And when killing is the substitute for a conversation, society as a whole starts falling off a cliff. And we all, myself included, we all have been sold the biggest con of our entire life. And this is that the problem is left versus right, or Republicans versus Democrats. And that is the distraction fireworks show that they want us screaming about while they're doing something else. And this is,
and I think what this is I think he's talking, the entire time I was watching this, I was thinking of 2 Thessalonians, the falling away happening first, and the man of sin, the son of perdition, being exposed. He's talking about the people behind the division. So there's people behind causing the division between the left and the right.
Is a magician's trick, and I'm about to really show you what Charlie, God rest his soul, has kind of exposed here. If you turned on cable news today, you go in your living room, turn it on, maybe you scroll social media, what are you going to see? The absolute fringe. They're going to show you the loudest, dumbest, most cartoonish people from the other side blasted in your face 24/7. You're not being shown your neighbor or your coworker or the mom next door who votes differently.
So if you don't know who this is Chase Hughes. He's a best-selling author. He used to work in the CIA and intelligence. I believe he's one of the world premier experts on psychological warfare. He's written the book, and he has read all the books. Definitely somebody who speaks with authority in regards to this. So he knows what he's talking about.
You're being shown a bunch of professional lunatics that are handpicked to make you think one thing. And the one big thing that they want you to think is, oh my God, these people are insane. They are the enemy. That's the reason that we're going downhill. And none of this is an accident. This is word for word textbook psychological operations. And military psyops manuals literally describe how you isolate a target audience, then you pump them full of a bunch of outrage, you create a tribal us versus them identity. This is straight out of a psyops textbook. So why would we want to do this? Or why would psyops want to do this? Because once you're locked into tribal thinking, you're going to swallow anything. You're going to believe any lie about the other side. You're going to cheer when other people suffer. You'll excuse things that you would never excuse in your own neighborhood if you watched it right in front of you and it was one of your neighbors. This is exactly the playbook on how you get otherwise decent, kind people laughing at a murder on the internet. That is how you radicalize a country without firing a shot. And let me tell you something that you're not supposed to think about right now. You share more in common. You share more with somebody across the aisle than with a billionaire donor or some media executive pretending to speak for you. I don't think they want you to see that. They need you divided. They have to have you blind and full of rage, because a united, sane, connected public is the one thing that they actually fear. So how does a normal person, just a regular person, a guy who loves his kids, pays his bills, maybe argues politics at Thanksgiving, how does he turn into somebody who cheers at the assassination of a political opponent on the internet? This does not happen overnight. It is a formula, and I'm going to lay it out for you very plain right here. Number one is isolation. And this is where you don't just disagree with people anymore. You're told not even to interact with them. You don't have friends on the other side. Don't date them. Don't work with those people. You need to cut them out of your life. That is step one. And if you're paying attention, that's also step one of joining a cult. So step two is echo chambers. You surround yourself only with opinions that sound just.
These same tactics are used in cults and any group which is led by religious narcissists, or just not even religious narcissists, which goes to Satan, the man of sin, the son of perdition, the devil, whatever name you want to use, somebody who thinks they're God or ruler in your life. They use these tactics.
Like yours. Social media makes damn sure of this, and algorithms serve you more of what already pisses you off. And this has been proven and documented in research. So that rage gets recycled and concentrated like moonshine, like a moonshine still. And if you haven't caught on yet, this is step two of building a cult, a dangerous cult. So step three here is the tribal script. This is the us versus them narrative. Your side is righteous, their side is evil. Every single issue is framed like a holy war, and it doesn't matter if it's taxes.
This is why I spent so much, we've spent time and will go back to spending time on Revelation 13 with the first and second beast. That first beast seems to be what we've been living through most of our lives. Relatively democratic, for the people, by the people, life, liberty, pursuit of happiness, to where now the world is moving into an us versus them. There's going to be a religious separation because you get that second beast from the land who speaks like a lamb with horns. What is it? Speaks like a, looks like a lamb, speaks like a dragon. I think that's what it is. But it seems like we're moving towards that religious cult mentality, quite possibly at a global scale.
Or healthcare, it's suddenly life or death, and it's good versus evil. And if you add outrage and righteous superiority, and our brain chemistry starts going bonkers, crazy, that cocktail makes people feel morally justified in hating and silencing and celebrating violence. That is true radicalization. That's how you turn regular people into basically a sleeper agent without them even knowing. The bad news is that what I just said is only the beginning, and it's happening on both sides of the imaginary aisle. Here's the truly horrifying part. All of this, it's not just a result of some advertising and algorithms. This is deliberate, and I would stake my reputation on it. This is not just some accidental byproduct of politics. This, what we're seeing right here, is engineered step by step to keep you outraged and blind, and keep you just kind of stabbing and punching at shadows. All the while, this real power, the people who profit from division, stay completely untouchable. So keep this in mind while we're talking. You have more in common with someone who voted different than you did than the people that you see parading their narratives on TV. Please keep that in mind forever, if you're able to. An absolutely brutal truth that nobody really wants to face. Assassinations, that especially like we saw with Charlie Kirk, assassinations are not usually about stopping some kind of evil. They're about stopping ideas. You don't kill somebody because their argument was weak. You silence them because you were terrified that their words are working. on people. Think about Martin Luther King Jr. He wasn't murdered because he was irrelevant and he had bad ideas. He was killed because his vision of racial and economic unity and equality was gaining traction in the country. If you look at President Kennedy, JFK, he wasn't taken out because he had no power or had crappy ideas. He was killed right as he started poking holes in this weird, dark system's grip on our war and defense and secrecy. Mr. Rabin, I think, assassinated in Israel. Nobody did it because he was a joke or because he was a laughingstock. He was killed because he was pushing in Israel for peace, and peace threatened power. Peace threatened power. History is
That is a key factor in cults, and I saw this when I was in the cult, is peace threatens power. Questioning authority threatens power. Anything that threatens power is seen as a parasite in cults.
Unbelievably clear on this. If debate dies, when open conversation gets replaced with suppression or intimidation and ultimately violence, society walks into a death trap. There is not an exception to this. So the ideas that require censorship or intimidation or blood to survive, they are 100% of the time poison. An idea that can't survive in the sunlight has to live in the shadows. And that is the death spiral that we are in if we don't stop this shit.
See, and this is the thing with the two olive trees, the two witnesses, is providing that light during these dark times. A little bit of light pushes away a lot of darkness.
Right now. So let's look at the other hand in this magic trick. Remember we talked about there's some misdirection going on here. For decades, the press, the media was supposed to be our watchdog. They're going to find all the facts. They're going to hold the powerful accountable. They're going to keep people informed. And again, you can see this with your own eyes. It's not right versus left. Look closely at the media. It's not right versus left. This is darkness versus light. The media is a circus tent with a lot more in common to a casino. This is a propaganda machine just churning out outrage.
See, and this is, so two things I think about when I think about this. If you haven't seen the music video by the band Disturbed, called Dark Messiah, go watch that video. It's a little gruesome, but it's illustrating the evil effect that media has. And this goes to my point where when I'm asking the question who Satan really is and trying to figure out how it is associated with the knowledge of good and evil, is there seems to be a correlation there. So you have the media producing propaganda that causes this kind of behavior. You see it in cults. You see it. It's a cult mentality. It's the cult of Satan. It's how Satan controls the world. It's through that knowledge of good and evil. It's just like they want to control what is good, what you're supposed to be doing, like a good little cult follower, and what is evil and what you're supposed to hate and what you're supposed to get emotionally upset about. These are the tools in the toolbox of the devil.
Let me just tell you exactly how this works. Facts are boring to people. Outrage is more likely to sell. It's more likely to keep you looking at the screen. That's their metrics. That's what they get paid based off of. So instead of showing you some kind of reality, they're showing you this carefully curated nightmare reel of the absolute worst of the other side. They're not giving you the whole picture. They're giving you the most extreme clips that they can find because they know that you're going to watch. They know that you're going to get pissed off when you see it all, and you're going to come back for more tomorrow. In fact, to me, if I'm very honest, if something doesn't fit their narrative, it is completely ignored. But if a story can be kind of twisted into a blame game, then it is. So they're not showing you reality in any sense. They're showing you a story designed to keep you loyal to your tribe, addicted to whatever their version, twisted horror movie version of reality really is. And what's truly disgusting, what I am genuinely nauseated by. We tend to think, oh yeah, the media is trying to sell ads for some pharmaceutical stuff, and they're trying to sell some car commercial breaks and things like that. That's not.
You know, I can't help but think of Babylon when the Babylonians were trying to build the Tower of Babel, and God saw that no manner of evil would be kept from them had they been allowed to succeed. There seems to be a parallel with what we see, what Chase is talking about here and Babylon, especially since Babylon means confusion. It's just like they work to keep you confused, keep you in your tribe, keep you in your place, keep you controlled.
Not it. This is more about distraction. The reason is, while they get you frothing at the mouth over some clip of a protester screaming nonsense, the real enemy to all of us, these entrenched people that you have nothing in common with whatsoever, who decide the narratives, they bankroll politicians, and they write the rules, and you know that they win no matter who wins, right or left. You know that they're the ones getting the checks. They're laughing at how stupid we are. So let's stop with the doom and gloom for a second here. And let me just kind of bring this back. If you strip away all of the slogans, all the hashtags, the little talking points of the media, what do regular people want? What do regular people, you and your neighbors, even the people that voted differently than you? We want our kids safe. We want a roof that doesn't leak. We want food in the fridge. We want a job that doesn't crush our frickin' soul. And we want some goddamn honesty from the people who claim to represent you, to represent us. And guess what? That guy that you don't like with the bumper sticker down the street, he wants the same thing. The woman with the MAGA hat at the grocery store that you thought was an idiot, she wants the same thing. The mom who is too busy working 3 jobs to even care about politics, she wants the same thing too. But what do they not show you on TV? What is the one thing? It's that you have that much in common with the people who voted different than you. They will never show you that. They show you the screaming protester with the purple hair threatening to burn a bunch of stuff down. They show you this red-faced conspiracy guy spitting at the camera talking about crazy stuff. They show you the absolute fringe because fringe pisses you off. Fringe makes you hateful and angry. Fringe makes you think that the other half of the country has lost its freaking mind. There are absolute real studies on this. There's hard data proving that these algorithms and the media deliberately push exactly what's going to piss you off.
Well, yeah, and don't you wonder why people who you have things in common with, neighbors who you might otherwise get along with, suddenly are saying things that are so contrary to you and seem out of left field, and to them, from their perspective, things you're saying seems out of left field and contradictory to what they're saying. Is it's a division, keeping people in their tribes, keeping people fighting one another.
The more enraged you are, the longer you're going to stay hooked. And they're literally feeding you a diet of enemies instead of neighbors. They're programming you to see the world through some kind of warped carnival funhouse mirror, where these loudest, weird-ass 1% of extremists look like 160 million people, and it's not. It is a lie. It is a lie. And if that's a lie, then let me say one thing that's true. And let me give you the truth here. You and that weird uncle that you argue with at Thanksgiving, you're not enemies. You're both being played. You're both being manipulated. And the second that you realize that, the second that you look across the aisle and see a fellow human being instead of some caricature cartoon, is the moment that the scam starts to collapse. And I think I know what you might be thinking here. So if it's not left versus right, then who the hell is pulling all these strings? Who benefits? So let me ask you, who benefits from you hating your neighbor? Because let's be honest, regular people don't profit from this chaos. Regular people don't, but someone does. And that someone is what I personally call the covert elite, because we have elite and then we have covert elite. And these aren't like a bunch of Looney Tunes cartoon villains in some underground lair. These are CEOs and mega donors to political campaigns. And you notice how they donate to both sides? These are political lifers, media conglomerates. These are the people who cash big ass checks no matter who wins the election. They operate on both sides of the aisle because the sides pay out. They don't care about your values. They don't care about your family or your future. They care about one thing, and that's control. And let me tell you, division is the cheapest, most effective tool ever invented for that. Look at how psyops are described in military doctrine. You identify your target audience. You feed them carefully selected information, and you push their emotion until their behavior changes. This isn't theory. That's written down in black and white, and it's the same exact playbook that's being used on you and me, my family, my parents, all of us. Except this time the battlefield isn't Afghanistan, it's not some country in the Middle East. It is your living room. It's your Twitter feed. It's your nightly news. It's right here where you're looking at my face, whatever device you're watching this on. This is the battlefield. This is why both parties, you're hearing them scream about each other nonstop, but they never really seem to touch the things that matter. And you ever notice how there's always money for war, but there's never money to fix our roads? You notice how billionaires always seem to fund both sides of the elections. And if you've ever noticed, if you take a good look, corruption is a bipartisan issue. That's not incompetence. So whatever it is for the elites, they need you locked in this tribal, us versus them, tribalistic warfare. Because if you ever woke up and you started to realize that you share more in common with the other side than a single millionaire donor on your own side, the entire game starts to collapse instantly. And I think if you realize this, you'd stop fighting each other. You'd start realizing that the right versus left is fake. And I think that purely terrifies them. So who knows how long this video is going to last on YouTube. But let me be crystal clear about one thing. The real enemy isn't your Democrat neighbor with the yard sign that pisses you off. It's not your Republican uncle who posts stupid memes on Facebook. The real enemy is entrenched power. And it's an entrenched power that thrives on one piece of fuel, and that fuel is chaos. The real enemy.
I think that has something to do with the devil knowing he has a short time. That entrenched power is about to be rooted out. And we're seeing the outlash, the clawing and the releasing of the locusts and the bees and the scorpions and pretty much everything. He's pulling out all the stops.
Is those people who profit when you are divided and distracted, and most importantly, when you are dehumanizing your fellow Americans. This was never about left versus right. It was always about the people versus the powerful. So here's the starting point. It's just sanity, just plain everyday common sense sanity. And ask yourself, do you genuinely want political opponents murdered in the streets?
Nope.
Do you want your neighbor dragged through the mud because they voted differently? Of course you don't, because you're a sane human being. And that means that you're okay. And sanity right now is the most rebellious act that you can commit in this country for right now. Sanity is refusing to let CNN or Fox News or Twitter decide who your enemies are. It's looking across the aisle that's probably imaginary and saying, you know what, I disagree with your ass, but you're not the devil. Sanity is truly openly saying violence is not politics. Violence becomes the death of politics. And true sanity is seeing just the weird idiots on the news and realizing that's not the norm. That is a cartoon that's curated for you. And the second that you stop playing the outrage game and you refuse to cheer for blood, which I hope you didn't do, you're already breaking the spell if you're there. I genuinely believe in my heart that sanity is contagious. And when one person refuses to take the bait, the echo chamber starts cracking a little bit. 10 people refuse, it starts breaking open a little bit more. And let me be super clear here. When millions of people, if this were to happen or were to refuse, the machine will collapse. I guarantee it. We don't need permission to stop being pawns on the board. The minute that you decide right now that you will not be programmed into hatred, then you have started to win. And that's the first step to being sane. And it starts with you. Mr. Charlie Kirk, his death was a mirror for all of us. And it's a mirror showing us how that we have fallen, because when we see murder being celebrated, when we see neighbors that are treated like enemies, that's the signal. And I think the good news here is that the machine only works if we feed it. It only runs on our clicks and our outrage and our willingness to see half of this country as a horrifying monster. If you starve this, it's going to die. It's as simple as that. Just think about your neighbors. Look at the people around you. Your neighbors, your co-workers, the parents at your kids' school. Do they really look like these dipshits that you see on TV and on social media? Do they actually match these memes and all the screaming clips and stuff? Hell no. They look like you. They look like me. We're tired and overworked. We're worried about bills. We're praying for a future that isn't just bonkers, batshit crazy. That's the America that cameras don't show you, because if they did, you'd stop hating people. You'd start seeing reality. So here is the pledge. Here's my one thing that I want to give to you here. And you can say this pledge out loud if you need to. I will not let anything electronic decide who my neighbor is. I will not let political violence become normal. I will no longer let propaganda tell me who to hate. I will never cheer for blood. I will choose sanity. I will choose unity. I will choose to see the humanity in people before I see their politics. And if enough of us take that stand, the whole entire rotten, nasty structure starts to fall, because the truth is very simple. There are more sane people than there are psychopaths. What we're seeing online is fake. There are more of us than there are of them. And the second that we remember that, the second we refuse to be divided against each other, which is fake, the game is permanently over. And I say this as the brainwashing expert and the psyops expert. The choice is absolutely ours. Right now, do we keep this programming? Do we keep going? Do we keep letting them program us into sociopaths? Because that's what's happening. My previous video right before this one was about this. Or do we break the script and take back our sanity and just finally remember that we are one people, we're not two tribes. And I want you to remember this. If something online pisses you off, now you know for sure that you are witnessing social engineering. That's all that is. And let me end this with a quote from Martin Luther King. The ultimate weakness of violence is that it is a descending spiral, begetting the very thing it seeks to destroy. Instead of diminishing evil, it multiplies it. Through violence, you may murder the liar, but you cannot murder the lie, nor establish the truth. Through violence, you may murder the hater, but you do not murder the hate. In fact, violence merely increases hate. Darkness cannot drive out darkness. Only light can do that. Hate cannot drive out hate. Only love can do that. I love you. Please, please, God, send this to somebody that you know.
There you go, guys. Yeah, I mean, we are called to love God and love our neighbor as ourselves. If a piece of electronics is pissing you off, you know you're being played. Be a light in this dark world. We are in the final stretch. We're in the end times. Our redemption is so near. The devil knows that he has a short time, and he is doing everything he can to persecute the saints. Be a light in this dark and perverse nation. For we wrestle not against flesh and blood, but against principalities, against powers, against the rulers of the darkness of this world, against spiritual wickedness in high places. Ephesians 6:12. God bless you guys. Shalom, shalom.